My first campaign flopped because the arguments of the player characters quickly spread to the players. As much as every campaign is different, most of them avoid characters that draw too much attention, flip the party's goal upside down, or invade other players' space. It's usually a simple rule that's unfortunately not always spoken of, to not destroy other players' fun by making your player character in-game invade the space of other player characters. And to not bring your player character's nature, for example the chaotic or evil one, as an excuse for spreading chaos at the table. Unfortunately, many parties translated into not playing evil or chaotic evil characters. However, just because a player character is hard to play, doesn't mean that questionable morality in-game has to be something bad. It can make a lot of fun to change the perspective and play an evil character, and I'm gonna tell you how. I said we're doing it that way, and we're doing it that way. Got it? Okay. Yeah. And if you have a problem with it, you need to handle it somehow else, because I don't know what we're doing. Like, it's stupid. Please. Well, that worked. Okay. Here we are with the antisocial player characters. They're usually rude, loud, and extremely annoying. It's hard to play them because they can easily intimidate the players as well as the player characters in-game. It's extremely important here to draw a line between you as a player and your player character while playing them, because otherwise the group will think you are the rude one. It's even more difficult if you as a player enjoy voice acting your player character's performances. Most new players get annoyed by such performances very quickly, but not every experienced player will enjoy intimidating character acting performances. The moment the players start feeling uncomfortable is a sign that you probably already overdone it. It's important here to make sure every player understands your character doesn't equal you. Draw a huge line between yourself and your OC. Phrases like she said, he said, or using your OC's name while expressing what they say or do, voice distinction when you're performing can be a nice addition. Say something nice to your fellow players while playing your OC to show them that you don't think the same as your character. Add a joke or two about your OC's actions, why they do something stupid. Why not? It can be funny. Make sure when playing a loud character to leave enough room for other players. It's not a one OC show. After a long argument, your OC should leave the stage. Maybe they got tired. Roleplay then, only partly focusing on the conversation and adding something from time to time. Or maybe they changed their mind and they actually agree with the players for once. Sometimes stepping out of the stage can have a logical reason, and sometimes it's really hard to think of something. But even in that case, you should slow down and maybe think about some characteristics that would make them more quiet. And even if you don't find any, you should slow down regardless and let the other PCs shine from time to time. Just because your character is loud or antisocial doesn't mean they don't have to have good traits. Every OC should have bad as well as good characteristics. For example, my favorite OC, Ashley, is a constantly angry, screaming freak. But her actions always come from her deep desire to protect everyone in her party. And although she is the most difficult person to stick around, other PCs want her to stay because they know they can count on her in need. How about you? You know, I know your character is supposed to be shy, but you really need to give me something to work with. Because... are you even enjoying the game?
What do I do now? Is she going to speak? Is she going to stay quiet? I really want to contribute, but my character, I have no idea what to do. Okay, she's going to get there and speak up. But am I losing her character now?
Shy OCs can be rough too. Before you decide on such a character, know this: you will be probably staying more silent than the other players, and it's not something every player enjoys. I, for example, could not. It can be frustrating at times to stay in role, and it's 100% okay to avoid your player character. However, regardless of shyness or anxiety, your OC has to have areas where they shine. It can be in intelligence or riddle solving, where the rarely speaking OC suddenly decides to have a lot to say. Just make sure those areas are frequent enough for you as a player to enjoy the game. I recommend making sure your OC slowly comes out of the shell. Let them realize their past doesn't on them now. Make them slowly become friends with the party. Just because someone's shy doesn't mean can't grow connections. Don't give DMs a hard time dragging your OC around. Regardless of their character traits and shy nature, they have to have a reason to stick with the party. I would be extremely careful with making your OC talk a lot about trauma. Character development is extremely important, but roleplay is not a therapy session. Make sure your character lives in now and there and reacts to what's happening in-game right now. Which means they probably shouldn't start talking about their trauma during a strategy meeting. But it could be way more fitting while their OCs are, for example, stuck in jail. Besides, it can be more engaging for the players to let the player character process the part of the trauma that is related to the campaign itself. Because every PC experiences the same situation, probably from a different standpoint, it can be interesting to see how it affects each player character differently. However, always make sure that the other players are down for such kind of play. Evil characters are rough because they can easily destroy the party dynamic. If your player character has different moral standard than the rest of the party, you have to create boundaries, keeping them in check. Maybe their only lifelong friend is part of the campaign and keeps their evil nature somewhat in check. Or there is a course keeping your OC from killing other humans. Or maybe your evil OC simply has the same end goal as the party, even if for other more selfish reasons. And because of that is forced to keep themselves within the party's moral codex in order to stay in the group. You can keep your OC evil and scheming behind the back of the party, while also making sure there are boundaries keeping your character and actions in check. Also remember that every action comes with a reaction. An evil PC won't just storm into a village, killing its citizens for fun, because they are well aware of the consequences. Who wants to go to jail, or get a bounty on their head, or at higher levels even make themselves an enemy number one of the state? Probably not your player character that still wants to stick with the party of heroes in order to achieve their bigger goals. Also remember that in fiction, many evil characters can come as deceiving and not necessarily brutal, which can lead to really interesting roleplay. Here we are with the 3 problematic tropes. At this point you might wanna ask yourself why you want to play such player characters. If your goal is to spread pure chaos in the game while other players try to fix it, drop it. Really, I mean that. But if you're ready to challenge yourself with the task of keeping your character at bay while also making sure no player's space is invaded, you can try it. Your OC can be evil, can be shy or angry all the time, but it's your responsibility as a player to make sure other players have fun playing with the characters present in the party. Communication is key, that's why many parties start with Session 0, in which they discuss boundaries and maybe even adjust some stuff. Make sure you know what boundaries other players have and which topics should be off the table. Be especially careful if you plan to play a cruel character. Many players don't enjoy torture scenes, but some might like to avoid trauma-related stuff or other topics too. It's extremely important to respect that and not bring it to the table. Personally, I'm a huge fan of making character adjustment on the run in the first couple of sessions, if I see anything that's not working. And I don't mean character development here. Just talk to your fellow players or the DM if you have a problem with your player character. Explain your reasoning and adjust your player character or even their backstory during the game. After all, you're supposed to have fun playing with them. You are playing a game, not writing a book. If the story gets a plot hole in exchange for a lot of avoided stress for the players, I think it's a win. Just maybe don't do it after you are deep in the story, unless it's absolutely necessary. That's why my party quite often has the problem with time gaps, where some player characters only manage to eat breakfast, while others already run through half of the town, fought monsters and had a huge argument between themselves. And yeah, if you wonder, my party is all about the drama, but we're playing for a really long time and know what we can and cannot do in order for it to work. Also, keep in mind every big event has an impact on your character. An evil player character can realize they actually care about the party after the party saved their lives. Will it be enough though in order to change their evil scheme? That's for you to decide. A nice trick I picked up for more open roleplays that don't necessarily have a strict story-driven campaign like D&D is to play with more than one character. While doing so, you can show a clear separation between yourself and the different OCs that react differently to different outcomes. Just don't introduce more than 2 or 3 OCs at once. For example, I started with 2 OCs I was really familiar with because I played with them before, and then added additional one that I wasn't that familiar with. And now, after the span of almost 1.5 years, I'm having 4 that I'm actively playing. If this is your first roleplay and all of that sounds super confusing and like a lot to keep track of, and you just want to slowly start to figure out if roleplay is even for you, then you should probably start with a character with a decent morality and at least some social skills. It can be way easier to navigate and less stressful, but once you start feeling confident, you always can make them slowly shift to the antisocial or evil category after they get exposed to the cruelty of the world. It can be a really nice character development story. However, if you still want to start with a more challenging OC, remember to put more effort into making sure the other players are comfortable with what's happening at the table. Spread controlled chaos in-game, not at the table. That being said, my favorite characters in campaigns are the black sheep, the odd ones, and the morally extremely questionable and selfish ones. They are the ones that make the game feel alive. Thank you for watching. You might want to subscribe and go do something creative. How do I keep her intact? I guess maybe... Okay.